even on just kind of a regular day, everyone just getting up and still doing things that are required. So what is that? Getting dressed, making our beds, eating breakfast, those sorts of things.
A sincere thank you for listening in on the Maven Parent Podcast, and also a sincere apology on behalf of my wife, Erin,
For what?
For not having a podcast last week. I mean, we pride ourselves in...
I love how you put that on me.
Well,
this is like the
do you want me to
conversations
tell the
we
whole
have
story?
with our kids.
Do you want me to tell the whole story to
Let
our
me
listening
apologize
audience?
on behalf of Mom to you guys.
Well,
and everything's put on me.
Needless to say, there were a number of factors that played into Erin messing us up for last week's podcast recording. We actually were celebrating a milestone. Erin and I celebrated 25 years of marriage. And so we thought, hey, 25 years, that's a big deal. We need to do a big trip. And so we did a 2-week trip to England, our very first trip to Europe. So it was crazy to take 2 weeks and do a trip like that. And so getting everything done beforehand and then having 2 weeks off, we just weren't able to get another podcast in there. But I'm going to say it's justified. 25 years.
And we'll do a podcast on how to leave your kids for 2 weeks.
Actually,
to go on a trip.
We should do that.
Oh, really? I was joking because it was a little chaotic. I mean, it's chaotic to leave for 2 weeks, no matter what. But it was awesome.
Okay, that's what we're waiting for.
That's what you were
awesome.
waiting
That's
for.
what I was waiting for. Because, I kind of planned the trip and stuff.
You did. You did all the planning of that trip, which I really appreciated. But I do think being married 25 years, obviously our kids are older. I mean, we do have a 10-year-old, but the rest of the kids are older. So we were, as your kids get older, if you're listening and your kids are young and you're thinking, oh, I would love to do a trip like that. That seems impossible. Well, probably the stage you're at, it is impossible. And it's been impossible for us for all of our years of marriage too. But this year, it ended up being a year we were able to do it.
We need to talk. We should do a podcast on this, and because there's actually probably an overprotectiveness that mitigates against this kind of thing for parents. And there's things that I'd say we've actually been doing in terms of leaving the kids, giving them more responsibility for one another that help lead us to be able to take this much time off. So anyway, all that to say is 25 years. It's a great milestone. We celebrated it, and it cost us a podcast. It cost you a podcast, folks. It cost you a podcast. So, but we're back, and we are at the outset of summer here, and there's a lot of graduations going on, graduation parties, getting announcements, all that stuff. And so we thought at the beginning of summer, it might be good just to do a really practical podcast. I mean, sometimes we kind of get deep into kind of worldview stuff and theology and theoretical aspects and thinking through culture and that kind of stuff. But this one's a little more, I think, just practical.
Yeah, I was thinking about in doing a summer episode.
Which I don't think I was talking about how this one's so practical. I don't think I introduced the topic yet.
Oh, yeah, you just said we're in summer now. But yes, the Kunkel House is full swing into summer. We're on a break from school. It's summertime. So that's what made me think about doing this podcast, because summertime can often bring about some stress for parents because the kids are out of school. And you're not in your regular rhythm. They're not in their regular rhythm. So whether you stay home with them or work or whatever, summer can be quite chaotic because of the lack of schedule and things going on. Now that's good because it provides rest, from the regular schedule of school.
The rigor of a kind of a daily school schedule.
I hate to say rigor because sometimes we're talking about like a 5-year-old who just finished kindergarten.
Oh, are you downplaying the rigor that moms of kindergartners feel.
No, I'm not talking about the moms. I'm talking
you-
about the 5-year-old.
Are you denying their lived experience right now? Jeez. honey.
Okay, so anyway.
Where's your empathy?
But it
well-
brings about a stress in homes because the kids, quote unquote, have nothing to do, is kind of the thinking. And so it will bring about stress because say it's a scenario where mom stays home or one of the parents is staying home. So even if you have someone to watch the kids, it still is stressful because it's like, well, what do we do with them kind of thing?
Yeah, and so there can kind of be this dread you feel thinking, well, I know what's inevitable. It's inevitable that screens are going to take over our summer,
Yeah.
or my kids are going to be in front of the TV or
The
on
kids are
their
going to
cell
be
phones.
bored. So how are we going to entertain them?
Yeah,
And-
and in today's culture, screens is the default, right?
Yeah. And so, parents will look for camps and other things, to help fill the time. We do our son's in a baseball camp just this week. So camps are not bad. We are not ripping on camps. But it's just a different schedule. And I think just talking about how we as parents can handle summer well and not take on the burden of feeling like we have to entertain our kids for the summer now that school's out.
Yeah, and then the flip side of that is also how do we make the summer productive? How do we kind of redeem the time? How do we make sure that we don't kind of waste some of that time when there are actually good things to be doing with your summer? And it's because you can get in that mindset of, well, summer we get to check out a little bit. They're not in school, so there's a kind of a break from anything educational or learning or
Any kind of work. And I think that we don't want to adopt that mindset or let our kids adopt that mindset, because there is summer in general is a season of rest for kids, but rest is different than laziness, right? So we don't want to just allow laziness to come over our homes in the summer, even though we might have weeks of rest or days of rest or whatever.
Yeah, that's a good distinction. So here's the one practical tool that we want to talk about today that can help us from experiencing some of that dread and helping us to maybe be a little more intentional. And it really is creating a daily schedule for your summer.
Yeah, so thinking of creating a daily schedule, we realize that in the summer, like we said, there are weeks that you'll go on vacation. There are weeks that grandma's in town or family's in town, or that, like our son this week is in baseball camp and it's from 9 to 3 Monday through Friday. So this week is going to look different from him. But in thinking about creating a daily schedule, what we mean is just thinking about the days that we're at home with the kids, and we meaning me. Like if you're at home with the kids, or the kids are at home.
Am I not at home with the kids?
The kids are at home with a babysitter or whatever.
Wait, you didn't acknowledge my question there.
I
said, am I not at home with the kids too? You just skipped that.
Oh my gosh.
See, what that would have done is created a lot of questions in the audience. Like, what's going on there?
Well, no, you are traveling and working. I mean,
But where do I work?
Do you want me to acknowledge something here?
I work at home. Hey,
Okay.
we both raise the kids. I just want.
Oh my gosh.
That's all I want acknowledgement that I'm here helping to raise the
my
kids.
gosh. So what we mean by a daily schedule is basically this, that you think about the days that you're home, not just as open, do whatever, because what I have found is that ends up making moms and parents in general crazy, especially by mid-July, when you're just every day is just kind of going by the seat of your pants, no plan, no structure. That by July, moms in general, parents are exhausted because they take on this idea that you have to entertain kids, or that kids have to be entertained every day.
Do you think that's why maybe a lot of moms get to the end of summer and are just like, I want my kids to go back to school. Like, I'm done kind of thing.
Yeah.
Or is that a natural thing? I mean,
Well, I have some theories on that. I do think part of it is the structure that comes with school and work and stuff, that we actually do flourish in that.
yeah.
So after a while, you do kind of long for that regular rhythm. But I do also know that if as a mom or as a parent, if you take on this idea that for the summer, your job is to entertain your kids, you are exhausted. Like after a few weeks, you're exhausted.
Yeah.
Like there's only so much entertainment you can provide. I mean, it's expensive to have that mindset.
Yeah.
It's, there's a lot of things. So back to the daily schedule. What we mean by that is just that you have a rhythm on kind of the regular days of summer. And so what we mean by that is that you still have some structure in your day, and typically that you focus that structure being in the morning. Because in the morning is kind of the part of the day, even in the summer, where pretty much everyone's at home doing things. And so, for example, years ago, I started realizing I was hating summer because the days were chaotic, and trying to have the regular rhythm of like chores in the afternoon, for example, which we have during the school year, that wasn't happening because by the afternoon, kids were swimming at the neighbor's house or out on a bike ride or whatever.
Or we're just plain lazy. I mean, sometimes our kids were just plain lazy.
Sure. And so I started thinking about having some structure in the morning and then having the rest of the day where their time is theirs. They have free time. Okay, so what did that look like? So basically, it's still having a time where you get up in the morning at pretty much a regular time.
And one of the, the good reasons why we do a daily schedule is it helps us to be intentional. Because if you're not intentional, if you don't plan, things can just kind of slip out of your grasp, so to speak, and things get away from you. And I think this is where, instead of checking out, going on default mode, or finding yourself like constantly trying to entertain the kids, instead, by creating a daily schedule, you're actually planning for some really good things, whether it's things that help build a work ethic like chores, or whether it's scheduling in, reading or certain things. You're intentional in putting good things in your kid's life. So the planning and creating a schedule and writing it down is just all being very intentional and planning things out. And we could spend some time, and we're not going to, but we could spend some time just going through the scriptures, going through the book of Proverbs. I mean, the book of Proverbs is filled with all kinds of explicit passages and just implicit implicit instructions, or just the implications. That's the word I was looking for. Implications of a lot of what's in the Proverbs is planning is required. Planning and intentionality and forethought and all of that is required for there to be different kinds of success, whether it's material success or financial success or spiritual success. So that is one of the, huge reasons why doing a schedule, because I'm guessing, some parents might think, oh gosh, I thought it was kind of like, I could kind of check out. This just sounds like work, but we want to kind of lay out some of the whys because we think there's some good reasons for doing this.
Yeah, because being intentional doesn't mean that it's all a lot of work. Being intentional doesn't mean there's rest in there, that there's free time in there, that the kids have opportunity to do things. Being intentional, you will plan the free time, but you'll also plan intentional time of doing other things as well. And if you just have free time, that's what I'm talking about parents feeling exhausted by mid-July, because it's like exhausted by free time, which means free time a lot of time ends up that mom or dad or whoever has to help the kids figure out stuff to do kind of thing. Yeah. So being intentional doesn't mean there's not rest in there.
Yeah.
But I think another reason why planning is important is because it sets the proper expectations for our kids on what the summer is for and what our days are for.
Yeah.
And our days are not just for entertainment and pleasure, even in the summer. And we know that's true because as parents, even in the summer or even when we're on vacation, our days are not just full of pleasure and entertainment. We still have to cook food and clean the house and do these sorts of things.
Yeah.
So that's what I mean about setting proper expectations. Just because it's summer doesn't mean there's no expectations on everyone in the house. There's still expectation.
Yeah, and then having that schedule then will help you to communicate those expectations. Because sometimes we might go into like the summer as parents with some expectations that are not spoken. And like we might want our kid to, let's say, whatever, just not be on the screens all the time, but spend some time in books or whatever it is. Mm-hmm. And if you don't communicate those things and then your kids don't know those things and then your kids don't live up to those unspoken expectations, it can just create a lot of frustration.
Yeah, I'm thinking about like our teenagers, their schedules during school are so busy. So a lot of times as summer's approaching, I'm thinking like, oh, this will be great. We'll clean out their room. Maybe we'll get it painted or, maybe we'll do some project things that they haven't had time to do. Mm-hmm. But I wouldn't always necessarily express those expectations. So then again, it's like beginning of August and you're like, their room is still a total disorganized mess.
Yeah. And this is why I felt like the month of August, I was just constantly playing Peacekeeper in the home because you and the kids were just at each other because of these spoken expectations.
Oh my gosh. So yeah, we can as parents look at the summer and think, okay, we're going to get this done, or this kid of ours is struggling with reading, so we're going to focus on that this summer. And we have this expectation, but we haven't really talked to them about it or let them know. So you can think of all types of scenarios where you have expectations for accomplishing some things in the summer that you don't have time during the school year kind of thing.
Yeah. It also helps to set up some ways in which, the kids can maintain discipline, so as they do their chores, as we build in whatever we build into the schedule, it helps to kind of foster in them that discipline. And sometimes I think at the end of summer, you think, oh gosh, the kids have gotten out of a bunch of good habits, right? Is sometimes what'll happen. And this maybe kind of prevents that a little bit and helps our kids to see, there isn't really a time to check out. It's nice to have times of rest, but to lose discipline actually can cost you. And that's just not normal life. Normal life requires regular discipline and, and of course there is a balance with, I guess, some of the childhood freedom that you experience. And so I don't know, I'm just thinking if anyone's out there thinking, man, these people are rigid, they're...
Well, that's why I think getting into the practical of what we mean will be helpful. But we just first wanted to talk about the why and kind of having a mindset about summer that I think is different than how summer is often thought of when it comes to homes. And I think a lot of times summer can bring about conflict in homes because everyone's expectations are different, the kids, the parents, whoever. And so thinking through this, I think actually helps to avoid conflict within the family, and it helps to get everybody on the same page, even in schedules that are different. I mean, we know summer is great. We have 5 children, 3 adults now, but we have had really crazy summers. So we have had obviously, and probably will this summer too, have crazy summer schedules, and that's okay. But how do we bring about some sense of order so that time isn't just wasted and things that we want to do this summer actually happen?
Yeah, and in all of this, we're modeling for our kids. We're modeling for them intentionality. We're modeling for them planning, getting things done, work ethic, and just wisdom, wise living. Okay, so we have some, good reasons laid out why this practical tool is helpful and why we should do it. But now there's the question of how. Okay, so how do parents, a mom, a dad, a single parent, how do we go about creating the schedule? Where do you start? Do you start writing stuff down? I mean, how have we kind of laid this out?
Well, yeah, writing things down is actually a good idea, of like writing down things you want to do this summer or want to make sure happen this summer. But I think what we found early on with the kids is that things that we really wanted to happen, especially things we wanted to happen every day, like cleaning their rooms, getting chores done, doing some reading, anything like that we wanted done, we had to move all those things to morning and then allow midday and afternoons to be free time for the kids. And that's typically when they'll get calls invited over to friend's house to go swimming or whatever it is. Or if there's a birthday party that day, they're usually in the afternoon. Most summer activities are in the afternoon. And so it's typically on a summer day the best time to have any kind of rhythm as your day in the day is to do things in the morning. So we moved everything to the morning time of the day. So we still have, in general, our kids wake up at a good time. So if your kids wake up, 6:30 or 7 during the school year, of course, it's summer. You could let them sleep in a little more if that's possible.
Yeah, like till 7:30.
Till 8 or 8:30, whatever. But even teenagers, I think, should be woken up at an appropriate time. Of course, if they stayed out late, they went to a midnight movie with friends, of course you can let teenagers sleep in. But having the habit of sleeping in from till 11, 12 o'clock, which teenagers can easily do, is not a healthy habit to be in. So even on just kind of a regular day, everyone just getting up and still doing things that are required. So what is that? Getting dressed, making our beds, eating breakfast, those sorts of things. And then for us, we realized if we wanted chores to get done, which we do, because all have to help.
We have a podcast on chores.
Yes.
Go back and listen to that podcast.
Yeah, actually, I wrote down, that Making Your Kids Work, the episode 4.
Making Your Kids Work.
We talk about the importance of having kids work in the home. And of course, as they get older, working outside of the home too. So that was episode 4. We did a whole podcast on chores. But so we realized chores are mandatory even in the summer because lo and behold, toilets still need to be scrubbed in the summertime. And so doing it in the morning is typically when it will happen consistently. Also, what we noticed about moving chores to the morning is that when they wanted to do something later on, it was very motivating to know that unless their chores were done, they couldn't go and do the other fun things that they had planned for the day. So it is motivating because you have to this is real life, right? It's not just being a mean parent, it's real life. You have to do your work before you can play, right? You have to work before you can rest. So having things like that push towards being the first things of the day that they accomplish. We also value reading in our home. And so a typical summer day includes reading in the morning also. So chores and reading.
And I want to pause on that point and just say, not only do we value it in our home, but we also do think that every Christian home should value that. I mean, reading is absolutely essential to the Christian faith. Obviously, the reading of Scripture. being one of those things. But then the reading of good books, the reading of, and developing a habit of reading, a lifelong habit of reading, and learning to love reading and love continuing to grow in your knowledge are things. So I want to, I guess, gently encourage families out there. Like, that's not just a Kunkel family value, but this is something that really, as Christians, we need to take seriously. Yeah. Like, reading should be a part of our homes.
Yeah.
Yeah. Have we done one on how to foster reading, or how to develop a love of reading, or how to implement reading?
I don't think we've done a whole podcast on that.
We did do an interview with Carol Joyce Sy, but did we actually release that publicly?
I don't know.
Okay, I'll have to look and see, because that was on reading. Mm-hmm. Anyway, side note, reading is an important part, and we don't want our kids to view it as something that's just connected to formal education. Mm-hmm. Like, oh, when I go to school, I read. Mm-hmm. Although I know there's some parents out there who'd be thinking, there's not a whole lot of reading that actually goes on in a lot of formal education now. So, but yeah, we want reading just to kind of become part of the kids' lives.
Yeah.
And so that's why having it scheduled in the summer is an important thing.
Yeah. And we've done things over the years of having certain books, like this summer with our 14 and 10-year-old. I have books that I've talked about with them, like, these are our summer books. We're reading these this summer. And so having summer books, I've done reading challenges with the kids. You've done things where if they've read a certain amount of books in the summer, then they get some reward for that. So there's all kinds of ways to.
I haven't done that for a while.
I know.
I need to re-implement that.
I know.
Because and I incentivize it.
Yeah.
Or bribe them. Actually, that should be a whole podcast. Is it okay to bribe your kids?
Incentivize.
Well, we define our terms.
So doing things like that. I think having books that you're reading out loud with your kids in the summer is a fun thing to do in the summer. Either having that time in the morning or having that time in the evening of having a summer book. There's so many wonderful books that you could read aloud to your kids in the summer. I'm thinking off even the top of my head, just E.B. White's books, Charlotte's Web, Trumpet of the Swan, Stuart Little. Those are the perfect summer books.
And those are for more younger kids, although older kids can enjoy those as well.
They're great for any elementary age kids, family-wise. And then if you had a middle schooler who was listening in, they would love it too, because I love the books as an adult. But yeah.
Well, and I think sometimes we think of like reading to our kids as something you just do to the younger ones. Mm-hmm. And so at a certain point, they grow out of that. But that's not the case. Mm-hmm. I mean, like, our 14-year-old right now loves to sit and listen to you reading the book. Mm-hmm. So,
so it can be something that you incorporate the whole family into, especially if you have a good book. A good book draws people together. So anyway, reading is something that we don't want to take a hiatus in the summer, not in this house. So if we want it done in our family, we've decided, okay, that's got to be done in the morning too, to free up afternoons and evenings. So then, especially as your kids get older, there will be more and more stuff happening in the afternoons and evenings. So morning times are the best times to put the things that really just can't slide, that have to be a priority.
Yeah. And now, again, don't hear that this is some rigid schedule that you can never depart from, because we do it plenty of times. Sometimes the surf is good, and we say, hey, kids, we're loading up the car and we're putting the boards in, and we're, getting the beach chairs, and we're going to the beach this morning. Mm-hmm. And we'll do that. And then baseball camps or soccer camps or, skateboard camp or whatever.
Swimming lessons. There's all kinds of stuff. So of course you adjust. It's your family. You figure that out, but still having a schedule kind of thing, and it doesn't have to be rigid on time as much as just habits. Summer habits is such a good thing. And also it leads to the other thing that we want to just encourage you as parents to avoid using the screen, having the screen as the constant entertainer for your kids this summer, that you would force them to fill their time with good things, and that screen time would actually be something that, of course, you can bring into your summer, but that it would be more as a privilege or special time, like family watching a movie or going to the movie theater in the summer. That's always fun. There's usually movies that come out in the summer that are good for kids or whatever. So not that you cut out screens completely, but still, even in the summer, maybe if your kids are old enough to have phones, that's not the first thing that they grab in the morning, that they don't take their phone or turn it on until breakfast is had, room is cleaned up, chores are done, and reading's been done.
Yeah.
And not letting the screens just waste the day away.
Yeah. And it's so easy for screens to become kind of the default for not only our kids, but for us.
Yes.
Because we've got things to do as well.
Yeah.
And so it's just easy to flip on the screen. And so it's a constant battle. And we know we need to do some more episodes on this. In fact, we're in some of our planning, we're talking about maybe doing some interviews with some folks to continually help us with the battle of the screens, because we know that's a constant battle for parents. And we just want to, I think, encourage parents to keep fighting that battle. It's worth it because there's so much potential harm in a kid's life from screen and screen addiction and what the screens are doing. So do your best to fight that. It's a worthy battle. And it's okay that when, your kid, maybe they need some time to kind of detox from the screen. It might be where part of your schedule is to take the first week of the summer or the second week of the summer or whatever, to take some time and to say, hey, we're actually gonna take a break from screens maybe for a week and implement that and help kind of do some detox.
Yeah.
But really not allow that to be the default thing.
Yeah. And the objections will be, well, kids get so bored.
Yes.
And
so what do you do with the bored kid?
Is actually a good thing for children to experience.
Wait. Pause.
What?
Say that again. For emphasis here.
That boredom is a good thing for kids to experience. So,
well, and I think some parents, that might be a little bit of a revolutionary idea for some parents who we've been socialized by living in 21st century American culture that's so pleasure-oriented, so consumer-oriented, so entertainment-oriented, that when you say something like that, it's like, wait a second, maybe I just think a lot of parents may not have thought about that boredom can actually be a good thing. Why is that a good thing?
Well, because it fosters creativity in kids. It gives their minds time to think and to use their imagination and to just have quiet, which we all need, and children need it so much. That children need it more than adults do. And so boredom is not mean that now mom or dad have to solve that problem. Boredom is not a problem. And so boredom is good. And pretty much the rule in the Kunkel house is that if the kids ever came to me in the summer and said, Mom, I'm bored.
You'd spank them.
No.
Oh, no, that wasn't the rule?
No. If they're bored, well, then good news. I have more work in the house that is to be done. So if anyone came to me and said, Mom, I'm bored, I would say, oh, good, because the French doors need to be cleaned, the cabinets need to be wiped down, the bathroom floor needs to be mopped. And all of a sudden they're fine with boredom and they go and find something to do.
And actually, as we're just talking about it, I'm thinking, yeah, the kids don't ever really come to us and say they're bored.
No, because I've beat it out of them. No, because they from a young age, you can come to me and say you're bored, but you'll be sorry if you do, because it means that you need work to do. Because
you sound mean.
You live in a house, talking to my children now, You live in a house with all these toys, all these paints and crayons and markers and paper and books and Play-Doh, and you live in a house that has a yard in the front or bikes in the garage.
And there's footballs and baseballs and basketballs.
There is so much to do that if you're bored, then something's wrong with you in your mind, and not something wrong with mom. I'm not bored. I have plenty of things to do. So if you're bored, you can join me in my work. Otherwise, you could actually go and find something. This is the joy of free time, right? The joy of free time is that you get to go and do something you want to do. Of course, it's within the limits of the backyard or the neighborhood or whatever limits mom and dad put on you. But this is the joy of free time. You get to sit and think, well, what do I want to do? And so even with this topic of boredom, that I think goes back to what I was talking about in the beginning. Parents can feel the need to entertain because kids will get bored.
Yeah.
But boredom is good, and it's really the fertile soil of creativity and imagination and all kinds of things that are so good for kids.
Yeah. And this is where sometimes if your kid says he's bored, you can do the chore route, or you can say, you know what, go outside and watch a bored kid, quote unquote bored kid, in 5 minutes, discover all kinds of things to do outside. You're talking about kind of work in the house and chores. That's definitely one of the things that is, can be just scheduled into a home. Now, I'm just thinking about some of those families out there who have older teens, and of course, we always required our older teens to still contribute at the home. But even summer is a good time, maybe for an older teen to get a job outside of the house.
Yeah,
which in this day and age seems like kind of a revolutionary idea as well, because so many young people, so many teenagers are not getting jobs.
Yeah.
But this is a great opportunity in the summer for us to help foster that work ethic that's so important, and that discipline by maybe getting a job outside the home.
Yeah, I think if you have a middle schooler or high schooler, that working in the summer just shouldn't even be an option, that they have to. Now, middle school has to be creative, right? So, because a lot of times they're too young to work at a regular fast food joint or something like that. They can't get a work permit. But there are all kinds of opportunities for work, whether it's finding people at church who need jobs done, need garages cleaned out, people who need babysitters,
yard work.
Yeah, all kinds of things. So summer is for older kids, middle school, high school. Getting a job should be part of summer. And I remember growing up and getting my first real job with a paycheck when I was 15. And I loved getting a paycheck and starting to earn my own money. And of course, in the summer, I could work longer hours and make more money that I would save through the school year.
Yeah, it's a dignifying thing.
Yeah.
It gives you some dignity. There's huge value in working hard and earning a paycheck. Mm-hmm. And that's something that I don't think we realize often with our kids, that's a huge value. Even if I can afford to pay for everything for them, it goes much deeper than that.
Yeah.
And so, there's a sense of respect and dignity that comes with that.
So for older kids like that age, we would strongly encourage you to get them out of the house and doing a job for the summer, finding jobs, and not just letting time be idle. Mm-hmm. And for them to learn the dignity of hard work, the joy of earning a paycheck, and all the things that come with that. So,
so that covers, I think that's a good intro to kind of creating a plan for the summer and writing it down. And we actually, I have some of ours. I can open up my laptop right now and I have some of our different schedules, whether it's been chore lists or daily schedules or all kinds of things like that. And so we've actually printed those things out. But it takes a little bit of work at the outset, but it has huge benefits, huge payoffs for families over the summer.
Yeah, I think so. I think it's brought a joy to our home in the summer. Different rhythm, but still a rhythm that has habits and
plenty
good
of
boundaries.
And plenty of space for the beach as well.
Lots of free time for the beach, but also work getting done and feeling by fall that, we're ready to start school again, but that it's been a good summer and we've gotten some things done. And
it's not like you're dragging yourself across the finish line of summer and saying, oh my gosh, that was unproductive and I wish we would have done more. But it's kind of going into the fall with a sense of, that was a good summer.
Yeah.
Maven exists to help the next generation know truth, pursue goodness, and create beauty for the cause of Christ. To find out more, check out maventruth.com.